Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the Formula One Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend review show. I'm Tom Dillion. You might notice that I'm not Joshua Burch. That's because Josh, unfortunately, is off with COVID at the moment. We wish him very well indeed. So I am the inferior stand-in for this evening's show. So hello, everybody. And welcome along. Alongside me this evening are two regular guests on the channel, Joshua Turner and Jessica Ball. And well, Josh, we'll start with you. A pretty exciting weekend, a pretty decent race overall. I think a pretty decent event.
Yeah, it was, and we had quite some exciting parts in the race, but we had quite some boring parts of the race. I think we can all agree on that. But going to be good to have a look about the race on our review today.
And Jess, we'll throw over to you. Same question, really. It's turning out to be Formula One in 2023. Probably the Red Bull show, but it was still quite impressive to watch.
Yeah, it was. The first lap was really good. Alonso going for the move into turn one. I was thinking, it was going to be very, very exciting, and chaos ensued after that. But then only one safety car, and not much happened after that. But again, we'll talk about a little bit about that later on. But at least there was no red flag, so at least we didn't have to talk for that much near the end to spice tension up a little bit. But yeah, no red flags, which is a good thing. But yeah, I think Bahrain was a lot better. Jeddah should have been a lot more exciting, but it wasn't.
And well, we'll go through the finishing order. In fact, the finishing order is as follows: Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen, the first team to go through. Well, I apologise. I appreciate we're doing this in a slightly weird order. So anyway, Red Bull. We'll start with them. Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen. A 1-2 for Red Bull. It was an exciting drive through the field from Verstappen. As for Perez, well, it was a lights to flag, not quite the Grand Slam he was perhaps hoping for. Would have been his first in Formula One, to my knowledge, because in fact Verstappen nicked the fastest lap at the end of the race. Josh.
Yeah, he did. It was the final lap. He did a absolute storm of a lap of a 1:31.906. That was the fastest lap. And that fastest lap point is what separates them in the championship stand-ins, with just 1 point difference, which we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and Jess, it was a little bit after Interlagos, especially a little bit cheeky of Max to nick that fastest lap at the end, but they did tell Checo that he was able to push, so it's not totally all bad guy Verstappen, is it?
Yeah, it was kind of a bit dodgy, though, that the engineers were telling them during the race about certain paces, and then Max Verstappen just left it to the final lap. It'll be interesting to hear about the radios, actually, if the engineers told Max Verstappen to push, really. And I know Perez will be very annoyed that Verstappen went for the final lap on the final lap. But I don't know. It kind of reminded me of Brazil in a way. I think Perez will be happy for P1, but he's not happy for leading the championship. Verstappen, I didn't like his attitude really after the race. He apparently didn't attend any weekend meetings after his dry shaft issue in qualifying and during the race as well. But hopefully he can forget about his troubles. He is leading the championship, for goodness sake. Australia is usually a good track for the Red Bulls anyway. So I think hopefully differences aside in Australia, and the team can push forward on this. But I think it was just a bit dodgy from Red Bull's part, really, that they didn't really tell Perez that Verstappen was going for the fastest lap on the final lap, because Perez could have pushed, but he didn't. He was told to set certain lap times. But anyway.
Well, he was told he could push right at the end. They said, I think the quote is, "You are free to push" when he asked. So. I don't actually have much sympathy for him. I think Verstappen just got the fastest lap of the race. Fair game.
I'm really proud of the performance from the team. The guys have worked their ass off, and what they've done this weekend, it's impressive to see from the outside. So I'm really happy for them, first of all. I think really this victory goes to them, and just to Milton Keynes, they brought such a fantastic car, and the team. I love being part of Red Bull Racing, because the way we push, the way we deliver, everyone is working at the maximum. I mean, we are such at high level.
Yeah, I mean, I was catching, and at one point I just started to feel really weird vibrations again on the right rear. And on throttle, in some corners, I started to get a weird balance. So at one point, I did the maths, and I was not going to catch anyway if I kept on pushing with the amount I was catching. So I said to myself, second is okay today, and we settled for that.
We'll move on to Aston Martin and not dwell too much on that. But, this is a little bit of a spicy one. Josh, we'll start with you, because Aston Martin, Fernando Alonso got third, then he didn't. Then they came and saved the day. They said, actually, based on precedent, your precedent is not clear and it's not fair that you are going to give us a penalty based on the slight touching of the jack to the rear of the car, and they've got that third place back. I think myself, it's disgraceful from the FIA. It's unfair on Alonso. It's unfair on George Russell. And, it's unfair on the fans as well, and all of the sponsors that don't get to see their car on the podium, or did actually in the end. But, what's your take on it?
FIA. Deary me, I was the person who told everyone on the What's Long if you joined us on Sunday after the checkered flag, and Jess, you expressed your opinion quite a lot, and I know you put the replay on Twitter, and it's a bit stupid from the FIA. They know their policies, and seen in the Discord from the little Howitz, I think we can all both agree, we know the FIA rules way better than the FIA themselves do, but it's just stupid from the FIA. And why put Fernando Alonso through that while he is unknown about it, celebrating on the podium with his champagne, then to bring George Russell in saying, yes, you've got the podium, you've inherited the podium from Fernando Alonso, and then maybe an hour and a half later saying, no, we're going to take that trophy away from you. And even the Twitter posts on George Russell's Twitter don't go very well, let's just say that.
And Jess, I apologise. My suggestion here would be that actually for these sort of minor infractions that are going to change the outcome of a race after the podium celebration, TV schedules are tight, you can't necessarily delay a podium celebration. I'd say actually, these minor infractions, let's start looking at grid penalties for the next race, and then we don't have any of this confusion. What do you think of that solution? And of course, what do you think about the incident itself?
Well, first of all, as Josh T was saying, I was absolutely frustrated that the FIA didn't investigate it sooner. It was in the regulations that, because beforehand, apparently the steward said that the penalty was fine, and then race control was like, at the end of the race, hang on, it wasn't, about the jack and stuff. So, yeah, personally, I think Alonso, if Alonso got that penalty, it should have been, I think, investigated beforehand to avoid all that confusion. But it was I think it was the rear jack that caused the problem. And then I think it was just lack of clarification. But yeah, I think something should be done, for penalties after the race. I think Aston Martin should have had time to review it before the stewards investigated it. I think it should have been said, the stewards found out about this issue, but it will be investigated after the race for Aston Martin to have the right of review. Then they could have done the things that Aston Martin did with their right of review before the penalty got given out. And then, obviously, George Russell wouldn't inherit the podium. They wouldn't have had to hand the trophy back. And always will be right in the world. But I think they're meeting on Thursday, aren't they, to discuss about this issue? Because apparently touching the rear jack hasn't been a problem before. So, yeah, I think that if there's any penalties like that could affect the podium, leave it to the end of the race. Don't leave it till... No, let the teams get their footage together. Don't let the stewards do it themselves. Because otherwise, things like that happen. I just don't trust the FIA at the moment after 2021 Abu Dhabi and now Saudi Arabia 2023. Well, there we go.
I haven't trust the FIA since 2019, and even that's just because that's when I started paying 100% attention to Formula One. So I just don't trust the FIA Full stop. And anyway, Josh, we'll move on to Lance Stroll. Disappointing for him. This was actually a unique situation because he had to power off the car. The car had the yellow lights on. It was potentially live, so they had to park it in a safe place. There was a great deal of urgency. And then the GPS transponder, I don't know if it's exactly called a transponder, but the GPS chip inside of the car said that he was on the circuit. So the FIA called a safety car, a full safety car, but actually there absolutely was not one needed at all.
Yeah, there wasn't. It was a bit of a, again, bit silly from the FIA. There was no need for a safety car. They have hundreds and hundreds of CCTV cameras around the circuit, so they just should have looked on the CCTV cameras. They have them on the side. They have the FIA in the race control room. They have people who fully focus on the CCTV cameras on an incident and kind of operate from there. It should have been a virtual safety car, but one thing that it does keep is the 100% safety car rate at the Jeddah Corniche circuit.
And, well, Jess, on this Lance Stroll thing, he's not under pressure yet. Obviously, the wrist is it seems to have sorted itself out anyway. They're not concerned about it as such, and it definitely wasn't a concern this weekend. Now he's had another 3 or 4 weeks to recover from that. But this is going to be a difficult season for him, isn't it, as a whole? Because a DNF here, albeit by no fault of his own, but when you're not scoring points this early in the season, your teammates up there making it 2 podiums in 2, you're going to start to feel pressure, aren't you?
I think you're going to feel pressure from the outside as well, because obviously Alonso, like you were saying, 2 podiums in a row. Lance Stroll, to be fair, we got to take the positives from it. Stroll has done, I think, before that DNF, Stroll did pretty well. One of the moves I think that struck me was around the outside of Carlos Sainz in the middle of lap 1, and I have to say that was one of the best moves I've ever seen. And I think there's been a perception that it's been changed for Lance Stroll. He's a paid driver or whatever, but actually he's better than what most people seek out. I think because of that wrist issue, I think people have begun to understand how good Lance Stroll actually is, even with that wrist problem. But it's a shame he had that engine issue. I really hope he comes back from it. Australia, I think it's a really hard track, especially with his wrist problem. Hopefully it's fully recovered by then. But if he doesn't start to deliver, I think in the next few races, I think people will start to question him again. And I really hope Stroll doesn't feel that pressure. But Alonso and Stroll get on. You can tell in Bahrain and even Jeddah qualifying, they get on well as well. But I think a lot of people seem to be supporting Lance Stroll now because of the fact he was still able to deliver in Bahrain, even with a broken wrist. And that's something that most drivers, I think don't have that capability of doing that. And I think Stroll, has definitely proved me wrong this season, but it was just a shame about his DNF, really. I think he could have, finished just behind Alonso if he didn't DNF.
Yeah, so obviously he's not feeling the pressure right now in himself, but I think the point here is that, as you mentioned, he's going to start, if he can't replicate what he's done in Jeddah and what he's done for most of Bahrain, he's going to start to look over his shoulder a bit, I think, which is probably a fair assessment of it.
I enjoy the podium. Then obviously after the podium apparently it could be a penalty, but I know the team is looking to understand if that's the case or not. If that's the case, I think we finished 4th, so we lost 3 points from 15 to 12. But I think it doesn't change the feeling. The feeling of the car was very good. We were second fastest again, controlling the Mercedes and in front of Ferrari. So yeah, I feel super happy.
I was just losing power every lap for like 6-7 laps kind of thing, and just like second and a half every lap, and then eventually it was just game over.
Was there a fire of any kind? Because I saw them
Some smoke.
And was that from the brakes?
Yeah, they were doing it on the brakes, but there was some smoke from the engine.
You think it was an engine? Or?
I don't know. We're still looking into it. To be honest, I haven't spoken to the guys. There's a lot going on right now.
Mercedes, people who are definitely looking over their shoulder and probably looking at themselves a little bit frustrated here. 4th and 5th, it's a good performance from them given the car, but Mercedes, Josh, they are pretty much from their high standards of the last 10 years or so, absolutely at sea.
Yeah, they are. Lewis Hamilton really not happy with the car, but back to George Russell. It's been a bit of roller coaster for George Russell as well, being brought into the Fernando Alonso case, with being finishing fourth, going up to third, and then going back down to fourth when the FIA sorted out their shenanigans, and probably you'll have more FIA shenanigans across the year as well.
And Jess, I'm starting to think people are actually underrating George Russell. I think he's doing a stellar job in that Mercedes car, and I think he's actually driving at the moment much better than Lewis Hamilton. Not to say that Lewis Hamilton is a bad driver, of course, or to rate them against each other, but right now George Russell is certainly announcing himself to the world, isn't he? This could have easily been a podium.
This could have been, and I think I was listening to his interview earlier on, and he felt quite happy in the car around Jeddah. I felt like Mercedes car took a few steps forward. The wind tunnel has been a lot better. They get more wind tunnel time than the other teams anyway, which helps, but it's definitely a step forward for them, and you could tell George Russell was loving it as well, and I think it's a track that suits him well anyway. He didn't have a good qualifying last year, if I remember, but he was able to go back and still finish quite well in the top 5 again. So Jeddah is his track. It's a high-speed circuit, and he likes it. And the thing that's unique to him is he's able to adapt to cars that don't work as well as he should. He was in a Williams, a 2019 Williams that was a dog that was like 1 or 2 laps down, like early on in the race. So he's so used to driving cars that don't suit his pace, and he was able to outperform it. So maybe that's what's helping him in this new era of Mercedes, of him able to deliver, because he can extract performance in a car that's not as good. But it's nice to see the car improving. Even Lewis was just behind him as well, so they were pretty much there. I think George was more suited to the mediums and the halves, but I think one thing that got me up, Tom, was the team mayors towards the end of the race. You know how they banned like the race director. Talking to the race director, I think the engineer was talking to George about the penalty that Alonso could be serving and stuff, like the 5 seconds. I don't think it was talking to George. I think it was just saying, FIA, pay attention to this, please. I think that was a hidden Morse code, I think, in that.
It was a bit chaotic at times on the radio, just trying to understand what was going on with these 5-second penalties or not. It was fun. You know, I was pushing flat out at the end to try and, get within 5 seconds of Fernando just in case. But I think he just had it covered. But, P4 for me, it's been probably one of my strongest weekends in Formula One. Just pleased with the result because I think we exceeded the potential of the car this weekend.
Yeah, struggled on the hards. Setup was wrong this weekend. But once I got onto the mediums, I was in a much better place.
Josh, we're going to move on to Ferrari, because not an ideal weekend for them. They just seem to be a little bit off the pace. I think actually this is really unusual for them, because they haven't seemed to have a bad car so far this season. They just weren't there.
Yeah, they really are. Carlos Sainz in 6th place, but they've had a couple of better results as my camera decides to go all blurry and does it auto refocus, but I'm back now, and it's just a better result, better from practice and qualifying in Bahrain, and in Jeddah they were really, really far down. And also control electronics, penalties, Ferrari car parts. If you are a Ferrari fan, or your name is Matt Gallagher, I would just stop being a Ferrari fan. Or try and cope being a Ferrari fan, because it's not really going well, is it, second race?
It's been such a long weekend with both of the Sebring races. I totally forgot about the Leclerc grid penalty storyline after Verstappen had his transmission issues. But anyway, I mean, there you go. So actually not a bad drive from Charles Leclerc to finish 7th. So maybe they're not all at sea. So that, I guess, leads on to my next question, Jess, and that is that Charles Leclerc finishing 7th, driving through the field. Obviously, he's not got the rocket behind him that Max Verstappen has, but it's not an easy place to overtake, is it, Cheddar? It's not a difficult circuit to overtake, but it doesn't strike you as an overtaking fest. So he's got a good package underneath him this season, hasn't he? It could have quite easily been a higher finish.
I think he got screwed by the safety cars. Without that safety cars, I think he could have challenged Stroll. He could have challenged the two Mercedes as well. Charles Leclerc started on the soft compounded tyres purely to get, I think, past a couple of cars, which worked. I believe he was 10th after a few laps, so he was actually performing better than Verstappen. Obviously, though, he was on a soft compounded tyre, Leclerc, but yeah, I think he was on the cusp of trying to get past Lewis and George anyway, but with that safety car, that screwed both the Ferraris, and I think the Ferraris were putting their head in shame. But yeah, I think Leclerc did the best with what he got. I think he's going to start to question Ferrari about certain things. Carlos Sainz, I think, struggled a bit more. I think we're starting to doubt, I think, Sainz's capability in the car. I don't think he would have performed as he should, because he started obviously ahead of Leclerc. And obviously the Mercedes have outscored Ferrari, which is not what you want a Ferrari fan to hear at the moment. And Mercedes almost beat Ferrari last year due to the reliability issues. And this can't keep happening for Ferrari. You could build a fast car, couldn't you? But there's no point building a fast car if the reliability is rubbish. I was going to say another word there, but not for this show.
Well, luckily we're on recording today, so we could have bleeped it out. But another thing that is a joy of the recording, I completely forgot that rather than at the end, we have to hear from the drivers from the pen during after we've reviewed them. So if Josh has retrospectively cut in and you've heard all of the interviews without us acknowledging them, that is why. Well, from this point, let's hear from the Ferrari guys.
Going into the race, we expected better race pace. I think looking at the race pace on Friday, we thought we could be on the pace of the Aston Martin and the Mercedes. Post-race, obviously, it looks like we still have some work to do, especially race pace. Towards the second half of the stints, we just let go off a bit too much. We cannot keep the pace of the front runners, and we need to get our heads down. We know the car at the moment is not where we want it to be, and start improving it as the season goes on.
We had a good run in with the soft. Then, unfortunately, with the hard, the safety car just came one lap too late for us, which was quite unfortunate. And then it was basically a train with Carlos.
Okay, welcome back. It's slightly weird for the guys up here in the box because it's been a 2-second pause. But anyway, we're back. Not an ideal situation, unfortunately. I think Josh will be back quite comfortably for Australia next time out. But anyway, Alpine, we'll talk about them and then hear from their drivers. 8th and 9th. There's actually been quite a nice little pattern here. 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th, 8th and 9th. Alpine with Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly, the two French guys in the French team. And it's, they're not having a good season, are they, Alpine? And they're not having a bad season. They're just really, Josh, are there. They have got, however, two great drivers in that car.
Yeah, they really have. And Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly haven't had the best past, have they? But they also have had a really good past growing up together. I think they were born 30 miles away from each other. But Alpine, if I remember rightly, the only team to lose time in pre-season testing. If I remember rightly, it was 0.064 seconds slower than last year, and that is really going back to nearly a month ago now. So we are nearly a month into the season if you count pre-season testing as the start of the season, or if you count Bahrain as the start of the season with the first Grand Prix. But it's really good to see Alpine have picked up the pace, and as the season progresses, getting more used to the car, getting more used to being together in the team, and it could really shape out to be an all-right season for Alpine.
And Jess, your thoughts on what's going on at Alpine at the moment? Because I actually tipped them at the start of the season to be totally at sea after Fernando Alonso left. But results like this are definitely, they're just scoring points. And that's what you've got to do as a midfield team in Formula One. You've just got to make sure you're in the points.
To be fair, I think that was a good race for Alpine. Both cars in the points. Not many teams have got both cars in the points anyway. And Pierre pitted quite early. It was around about lap 14. Esteban pitted just later as well. And that safety car, again, did not help them because Yuki Tsunoda, who was yet to pit, took advantage of that. But that didn't affect them that much. Esteban was like, you know what? I want to try and get past you. So he did. And then Pierre Gasly did the same thing. It was a very nice overtake, actually. And I think I think I know Otmar Sapnar would realise that there's a lot of things that they could improve, even though they did well. But it's better than what they were at the start of the year, at the start of pre-season testing. I think they're building up race after race, I think. And I think they were, a story of the battles, I think, on Sunday. So, I think for both of them, they could say they're pretty happy. They're doing better than some other teams, which we'll go on to in a minute.
Well, let's hear what their drivers had to say.
You know, we're not fast enough to be able to hold the Ferraris in front, and we thought we could at the moment, but, they pulled away, and, from there we managed the pace and tried to, bring the cars back home, and that's what we did. So, double point finish, happy with that. Happy to finally start my season in a no issue way, free race. So it's been solid, and hopefully we can catch the cars in front for the next one, because it was a bit lonely.
Overall, I think there's definitely some positive from the race. Second race with the team, second times in the point, so we'll take that. On the other side, I expected us to be slightly closer from the guys ahead, and it was we were sort of no man's land behind the Ferraris and in front of the guy that was in P10 behind us. So we definitely want more, so we'll have to work. And my side, there were times of the weekend where I felt a bit better with the car, some other times where I struggled a bit more. So.
And so, Haas, a team that potentially... Stop giggling, Josh.
I'm not giggling. No?
We see you. Anyway, a team that actually, I think, despite the fact they finished 10th and 12th, Magnussen 10th, Nico Hulkenberg 12th, I don't think actually they're having that bad of a year. I don't think we can appreciate where they were in 2021 and even 2020. These Haas guys, Josh, not ideal for them, but at the end of the day, this is the nature of being a team that is struggling in Formula One.
Yeah, they had a really good season last year, but it's been a bit downhill from last year, I think. But hopefully they can get back near the top. But one driver in the points for Kevin Magnussen, just a single point in 10th, and Nico Hulkenberg in 12th. But got to remember, Nico Hulkenberg's been a super sub for 2 years, and this is his first year full time for a while, so he's just still getting used to being in the Haas, but hopefully they'll be able to improve over the season.
And Jess, Nico Hulkenberg finishing in 12th. It's no one ever likes to finish behind their teammates, but at the end of the day, one of the two teammates has to be in that lower position, and at the end of the day, you finish 10th, you finish 12th overall. There isn't a huge amount of difference, is there? These guys seem to be a strong driver pairing.
They are, and I think they were battling with the Williams and Logan Sargent as well, I think, and Joe Guanyu, and that was probably one of the best battles we've seen all race. I think not much was happening at the front, and they kept cutting to the battle with the Hasses and Logan Sargent, and that was really fun to watch. But I think Hulkenberg has got to be disappointed, but I think there were some issues coming into the weekend about certain parts as well, and they thought that the car was competitive, even though Hulkenberg missed out on a point. He was happy with Manson getting a point, so it shows that he can get up there. He's happy that he actually finished, and it looks like he had a lot of fun as well. And sometimes you gutted to miss out on the point, but you had fun around Jeddah, and it wasn't a boring race for him. So a lot of positives to take from them, even though Hulkenberg didn't score any points, and hopefully Haas has done well in Australia in the past, so hopefully they can replicate, obviously, Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen scoring well there in the past anyway. So, it was probably one of my favourite battles, I think, between the two Hasses this weekend. So, I really enjoyed that.
Testing my knowledge now, was it 5th in 2018, Kevin Magnussen, at Australia, I think.
And on his debut, as a rookie, I think he got on the podium as well, Kevin Magnussen. So he does do well on this track in Australia.
He does, and I'm sure he'll enjoy that one. Anyway, let's hear what he had to say about Saudi Arabia.
I'm really happy. I think we made a good step this weekend on the setup. Much better on tire degradation today than in Bahrain, so got to be really happy with that.
Yeah, it was a tough, challenging race, but happy actually with P12. I think a couple of things didn't quite go to plan, but all in all, I'm happy. The pace seemed strong and right for us in the midfield, and that is the best news of the day.
That's amazing because I didn't even ask a question there.
I know, time efficient.
And are you happy with the Haas's pace? Is that an improvement from Bahrain?
Yeah, Bahrain was obviously very difficult to understand with the damage that I had. So, you know, I think we kind of had to forget about it and regroup. So here was kind of a fresh start, race 1 for us.
So, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hulkenberg, if the jump cuts on too much for you viewers at the moment. But as for AlphaTauri, the team we need to move on to next, their existence in Formula 1, I think, well, everyone's just waiting for their announcement that they are going to be sold off, at least in the next couple of years. Really it's going to happen. Yuki Tsunoda was, he was distraught, actually, in the interview I saw of him after the race. Josh, it's not actually panic stations for him, but after having a great car in 2021, this team that is a Red Bull Junior team, they're never going to make much progress, and it doesn't seem to be that is top of their priority list. And it's just a difficult start to the year for Yuki Tsunoda, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Really difficult. And first time of the year that Yuki Tsunoda got angry on the radio. Just a little fun fact for you as well. But it's going to be a hard season for Yuki Tsunoda, I think. But a really good first Jeddah race for Nick de Vries. Never raced at the Jeddah Corniche circuit and finished in 14th. So really good from Nick de Vries, I think, for the first race that he has run at the Jeddah Corniche circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Nick de Vries, we're calling him a rookie. It's complicated, isn't it? Because technically speaking, he's not a rookie. Most people at 28 years old don't want to call him a rookie, but this is his rookie full season, his first full season in Formula 1, Jess, and it takes a while to get into these Formula 1 cars. They're wildly different from Formula E cars he's been driving the last couple of years, and wildly different from an LMP2 car that he's also been driving in the WEC over the last couple of years. He's finished very well at Le Mans a couple of times just throughout that championship as a whole, but he's here in Formula 1 14th at the very difficult Jeddah Corniche circuit. I don't think he's going. Well, I don't think he's going to be happy with how these two races have gone. Definitely no debut that he had in Monza, but I don't think he's going to be upset yet, is he?
No, I think he's got to realise that the AlphaTauri car is not the best car compared to obviously the Williams that he drove in Monza, but he's been learning to adapt it as it goes. And even though he didn't have a good qualifying, he had the good race pace to get in at 14th position. He felt like he didn't do a particularly good job, and it's good to know about your faults so you can know how to improve it. And I think what didn't help was he got stuck in traffic, so he couldn't make out the positions. Like you were saying earlier, it's very hard to overtake, and we know in league racing, DRS trains can be hard to overtake, and I think Nick de Vries showed that on the race on Sunday. But when he was in clear air, he was fine. He was battling with Zhou Guanyu as well, and he felt like it was a step up from Bahrain, and I have to agree with him. It was a step up from Bahrain. So, yeah, I think Nick de Vries personally, he did a much better job than Bahrain, but there's still room for improvement because still yet to get points this season, but I think it won't take long for him to get points. He's embedding into the team, I think.
Yes, definitely. And let's hear what he has to say on the matter.
Yeah, frustration, especially ended up, almost scoring points, so didn't have enough space to save the position. We have to make it, make car anyway better to fight consistently like that at least. For the future.
I think I just lost too much ground at each start, so started the race, took too much time to get into the rhythm, wasn't attacking enough, and the same for the safety car restart, and I think I lost too much momentum there, and then you find yourself in the traffic, and it's very tough to come through when you all have fresh tires, toe, DRS open, and then you got to be very patient to wait for your opportunity. But then when we were in free air, I felt like we were pretty strong. I should have just done a better job initially to attack.
So, that's what Nick de Vries and Yuki Tsunoda had to say about their finish. And, now we'll talk about the other Alfa Romeo. Sauber, as well, we probably should be calling them. I think, again, Alfa Romeo, another team that might not be totally committed through the next 5 years or so. But anyway, Sauber, Zhou Guanyu 13th, Valtteri Bottas in 18th. It was just a difficult weekend for them. And Sauber, they seem to take it's happened for years and years and years. They seem to take 2 steps forward and they seem to take 3 steps back. I've always remembered Sauber as a backmarker ever since I was playing F1 2010 on the Xbox 360. Again, they just seem to take 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. It's been a really, really difficult weekend and ended in quite a terrible weekend. The pace that we saw in pre-season testing and at Bahrain for the Alfa Romeo, was it genuine? Was it not? After the Jeddah weekend, I'm kind of thinking it wasn't genuine and something's happened with the car, but they really need to step up their pace. A really, really terrible weekend for Valtteri Bottas, but an all-right weekend for Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, absolutely. And Valtteri Bottas just seemed to struggle there, trying to fight his way through with the McLarens, Jess. And it's a total contrast to what we saw from him last year. But again, I mean, it's early in the season, isn't it? So just chalk it up to not liking Jeddah.
Yeah, and you got to take into perspective, he's in an Alfa Romeo. He was used to driving the Mercedes. Alfa Romeo had a better car under his belt last year, so he was able to get points last year, whereas this year, I think he was struggling. And it's a shame because I think with Alfa Romeo, Valtteri Bottas being the team leader, you are expecting him to get better results compared to his teammate. But it didn't help that he had some damage on the car as well. I think it was on the floor after picking a large piece of debris in the opening lap as well, which I didn't see, but when I was looking at the reports, he did actually get some damage as well. And I think there's going to be a lot of data investigation to find out what was wrong apart from that as well. And he knows that the car will be so much better. There is going to be some upgrades, I believe, in Australia. So hopefully the upgrades will further improve the car to see Bottas climb his way through the field. But I have to say, as I was saying to the two Hasses, Zhou Guanyu with that battle towards the end with Sargent and the two Hasses, absolutely incredible. I think, again, Zhou Guanyu deserving his place in Formula One, doing well in the Alfa Romeo team, and definitely showing his worth again this season as well. Again, proving the doubters wrong, I think, because I think a few people, including myself, didn't think he had the right to be in Formula One. But then after the first couple of races last year, and obviously the whole season last year and a few races this year, I think he's been doing a very good job.
Yeah, and he has. Well, let's hear and see if he thinks he's doing a good job.
Obviously, I wasn't too happy with the results because I think our weekend achieved definitely more. If anything, top 10 was definitely possible because if you look where we were after the first stint before pit stop, we was behind Gasly, in front of the Chihas, and then after the pit stop, I was in the middle. So the race was kind of pretty much finished after that. So difficult race to the end, but on my side, I think there was maximum I could do out there.
Lack of grip today, and I think there was something wrong. I'm suspecting a run over some debris on lap 1. Since the beginning of the race, I just had no grip, so perhaps some damage in the diffuser or something.
Now, cheesy segues aside, let's move on to McLaren, who, well, McLaren are just in a difficult spot at the moment. It goes back years and years and years, and you know, really since the GP2 days of Fernando Alonso, but a team that, well, I think the old adage that I used for Alfa Romeo rings true again. They probably, over the last 5 years, have taken 2 steps forward and another 3 back. They were fighting for podiums just a couple of years ago, and now get the regulation change wrong, and it's yet another difficult weekend. 15th and at 17th. Piastri, the positive, Josh, is that he has outscored, well, not outscored, but he's outfinished his teammate Lando Norris.
Yeah, he has a good race from Oscar Piastri, the first race he's run in Formula One at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. He had a good run in Formula 2, if I remember rightly, at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. I would get my notes out, but they are in this box, and I can't be bothered. But it's been really good. Again, as you said, two steps forward, three steps back for McLaren. It's really not good. A really, really difficult start of the season for McLaren, and hopefully they can be taking 3 steps forward and then 2 steps back.
Or hopefully just 3 steps forward, perhaps.
Yeah.
And not back at all. Go back to the top. Maybe Williams can join them. That would be good fun. But anyway, Lando Norris, Jess, a much hyped up driver. A lot of people actually think that he's World Championship quality. I don't personally see it myself. And hopefully my Twitter's not attached to this because I don't want to be attacked for that comment. But anyway, a difficult weekend for him. We've shown he's shown flashes of brilliance and not anything of concern, but it is difficult time to be a McLaren driver. And in fact, I'll ask you another question. If he wants to go and prove that he's World Championship quality, when does this guy jump ship?
I think I was discussing it with Josh and Josh Burch and Omi in FP3 as well. And there was talks that he could go to Aston to join Fernando Alonso, but why would they get rid of Stroll? Because his daddy owns the team, and I think Lando is going to question McLaren a little bit. I think after those performances of the first few races, he's got to be thinking, like, which team is going to help me deliver great results? There's no point in him going to Williams. That will be a bit of a downgrade for him. But Williams are performing better than McLaren at the moment. But we know that McLaren could take a few steps forward. Alpine, obviously they got a French lineup. That's going to be tough to beat. I think the only option apart from Aston is Mercedes, I think. Mercedes are probably... Lewis is rumoured potentially to go to Ferrari. Not going to happen. Lewis could retire soon. And I think if Lewis goes, could there be a seat available for Lando Norris? Could we see a George Russell, Lando Norris pairing? I think everyone would love to see that. And could he start picking up podiums and wins there? We don't know. But yeah, it's just a shame to see a capable driver that's fit at getting podiums and top 5 finishes, just having a car that's not delivering. And I like Lando Norris as a character. He's funny and he's starting to take things more seriously now. But yeah, it's just a shame that McLaren are not delivering at the moment. And I pray to God that Australia gives him a car that can do well, because I want to see him fight for podiums again, like we've seen in the last few seasons.
And so I'll weigh in actually Alpine, maybe a quick one for Lando Norris. I mean, they'd have to get rid of Gasly or Ocon. I could see that turning sour later in the year, maybe. And then you think Lando Norris, it's not the step completely up the grid that he wants, but it might be a step up. I
mean, it really could. And I think Mercedes would be a really good place for... I nearly said Fernando Norris. That would have been funny. But Lando Norris, that would be a really good step. I found notes about Oscar Piastri. He finished 8th in the first race of the weekend and won 2 other races. So quite good at the Connie circuit in F2.
And yes, just scrambling to unmute my microphone there. You caught me mid-sip of coffee. But anyway, let's hear from Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris after a disappointing weekend.
Yeah, obviously wasn't the ideal race with lap 1, but I think after that, to do 49 laps on the hard was a pretty good effort. They seemed to hang on very well at the end, which was good, and a bit of experience with overtaking, some more wheel-to-wheel battles, which was nice. A bit of entertainment at the end. So, obviously not the race we're looking for, but still some positives for me and some more experience.
It was a really good start. I just got all the damage from, I heard Oscar and Ocon came together and all of their debris hit my car and ruined my race. So I had to do a nose box change, broke my front wing, which just kind of ruined the rest of it.
And was the damage from that cost you pace as well?
Well, I broke the front wing, we changed the front wing, so...
and after that it was okay, but you couldn't make it past, I think it was Sargent at the end, you were almost on the line.
I think I would have done if I didn't let Oscar go, but I let Oscar go, I let him have a crack and he did it, so fair play.
And so, on to a team that I have to say, when I elected a favourite Formula 1 team from playing the F1 games over the years, and always starting with Williams and loving Williams through the history and things, and I didn't quite think this is what I was getting myself into, and probably why I tried to say I don't support anyone, because to be honest with you, with Williams, there's not a lot to support at the moment. But James Vowles, very exciting. It wasn't a superb weekend for them. Logan Sargent finishing 16th, DNF for Alexander Albon, yet more mechanical issues, and Josh... There is no talking point around Williams, is there? They've got James Vowles, that's probably the most exciting one. This is really a transition year, I think.
Yeah, it really is. This is kind of like the low year of Williams after their changes, and now hopefully in 2024 they'll step up the game, or even in the second half of the season of 2023. But Logan Sargent in 16th and 19th, and a DNF from Alexander Albon. He reported brake failure on lap 26. Didn't box on lap 26, which I think we were all surprised about in the commentary box. And then he lifted and coasted the whole of lap 27, causing a little bit of a chaos around the circuit with going so slowly. The white flags were definitely absolutely waving to the fullest they could, as I nearly trip over my notes box which is on the floor. But and then he pitted on lap 27 for him, and probably like lap 49 for everyone else. That's how slowly he was going.
Absolutely. And Jess, it's a brake failure. No scarier thought as a racing driver. I mean, we've all been driving karts and going down into a corner at 50 mile an hour and thinking, my word, I hope these brakes work. If you have time to think that. And well, thankfully the pedal went long for him, I think, before they totally failed. And overall, he did a good job to get this one home. But plenty in this Williams, I'm sure. Plenty of potential for points. It's just not there yet.
Yeah, I think the car, I've got to say, is a lot stronger than last year. I think if Alex finished, he would have definitely got some points. He was running in a decent position before he retired anyway. So I think since Alex joined Williams, I think he's definitely had less pressure on him. He needed a team where he could race for fun and not worry about the pressure that's been put on him for like Red Bull and AlphaTauri and stuff like that. And I think the main reason why he's stayed in that team is because of the environment. He gets on with his teammate Logan Sargent as well. He's kind of like a mentor in as well. And I think he knows the car has just had pace. But I think you could take back a lot of positives that he had a car that could fight in the midfield as well. I think he was fighting in the midfield too during the race as well. And Sargent as well, don't forget, started at the back. He was allowed to race, I think, due to the 100% rule, and he had set times in practice. I think at the start of the race, it was pretty good for him, but I think with the tyres, he struggled to get some grip in his tyres, which meant that he lost a few positions and a lot of cars overtook him. But one positive is his first Jeddah race where he actually finished, because all the other times he's raced around Jeddah, he's DNF'd. So that's one positive, that Sargent actually finished a Jeddah race for the first time.
I think on that 107% rule, just for clarity to those who are watching, maybe, new era or whatever, what have you, new people to F1, I think it is practice time. Maybe they can fall back on it anyway. The fact of the matter is that it's very lenient now because the FIA has got trust in these drivers that actually the cars are there. So, I don't think a huge concern for anyone, but that's just for the sake of clarity. Anyway, hearing from the drivers, Logan Sargent and Alexander Albon, and then we'll take you through the championship standings.
To be honest, just struggled to get comfortable from the get-go. I just felt a bit disconnected to the car. Just really struggled through the high speed, mainly from 4 to 10 in sector 1. But the first 30 laps were relatively decent, and then just those last 20 laps just struggled to keep the tire alive and was falling off towards the end. But nevertheless, there were positives to take from the weekend. We were super quick yesterday, and it's another great learning day to see why I started to drop at the end there. But you got to take the good with the bad.
It's a lot of positives to take from it. It's the best the car's felt since my time driving at Williams, so that's very positive. More just frustrating because we had a lot of potential in the car this weekend and we couldn't use it.
Okay, so here are the race results from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Sergio Perez won for Red Bull Racing, leading a 1-2 with Max Verstappen, his teammate, in second position. Fernando Alonso controversially rounding out the podium, eventually able to keep on hold of that in the Aston Martin. George Russell finished fourth with his Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton in fifth. It's Ferrari 6 and 7. Sainz and Leclerc with Esteban Ocon finishing 8th. Pierre Gasly in 9th. Rounding out the top 10 was Kevin Magnussen. Yuki Tsunoda finished in 11th. Nico Hulkenberg in 12th for Haas. Zhou Guanyu was 13th. Nick de Vries in 14th Oscar Piastri finished 15th, Logan Sargent in 16th, Lando Norris in 17th, and the last of the finishers was Valtteri Bottas. Alexander Albon and Lance Stroll failed to make it to the flag. So the driver's standings then, Max Verstappen is leading the way after that final lap charge to the fastest lap, 44 points for him, ahead by only a single point of his Red Bull Racing teammate Sergio Perez in second. Fernando Alonso, 2 third place finishes, sees him third in the standings, with Carlos Sainz in fourth. Then it's Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, 5th and 6th, Lance Stroll in 7th, Charles Leclerc in 8th, Valtteri Bottas in 9th, and Esteban Ocon rounding out the top 10. Pierre Gasly is in 11th, Magnussen in 12th, Alexander Albon 13th, and the rest of the grid not scoring. Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hulkenberg, Logan Sargent, Joe Gran Yu, Nick De Vries, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Constructors standings, with Red Bull Racing leading the way on 87 points, 2-1-2 finishes from the 2 races. Aston Martin, the shock of the season so far, in second position on 38, tied with Mercedes in 3rd. Ferrari, disappointing start to the season for them, in 4th on 26 points. Alpine only able to put 8 onto the board at the moment, in 5th, with Alfa Romeo in 6th on 4. Then it's Haas, the last of the points scorers, alongside Williams in 7th and 8th. Then Scuderia AlphaTauri in 9th, with McLaren rounding out the standings in a very lowly 10th.
I would get the 107% document up, but FIA official documents website is being FIA.
And so, thank you to the magic of Adobe Creative Cloud. Other stuff is available. Probably other stuff is recommended as well. I don't know what Josh uses. I'm just assuming it's the Adobe stuff. But anyway, as we move on through the session, well, we're actually ready to close it out. Josh, closing thoughts from Saudi Arabia. I'll ask you Josh's favourite question. Favourite moment of the weekend?
Favourite moment of the weekend? Whew, that is a hard one. Probably the most funniest moment of the weekend was when Nick De Vries literally tapped his brakes going into turn 1 in qualifying and just did a massive spin, and that was quite a shock and quite a video game move, let's say, when you push the brakes way too hard. And literally what happened not this Thursday, but the weekend before, the week before Thursday, when it was raining and I was getting used to my new brakes on my new bike. Did my rear brake too far, and down I went and slid like two and a half meters. And if I go down to the end of the walk, that mark is still there.
Yeah, well, I've ridden my bike in. Well, I don't own a bike anymore. But when I did have a bike, I rode it in the ice, and well, let's just say that was an awkward moment back when I was younger. But anyway, thankfully, when you're 8 years old, your body's quite bendable. So anyway. Jess, closing thoughts of the race and of the weekend, and favourite moment of the weekend.
Well, hopefully the race improves for next year, but my favourite moment of the race was Fernando Alonso taking the lead into turn 1, because I think we were all going crazy in the commentary box, and we were saying he could do it, and he did it, and it was quite a sensational move, even though Perez got past him in the end, but it just gave me hope that Alonso could win the race. Unfortunately, he didn't. But yeah, that was my favourite moment. I'm still a big fan of Fernando Alonso. Always will be. I think since he returned to Formula One, and he got his 100th podium. I'm glad he finally got his podium back. When he will get the win, I don't know. I think it's going to be a question of when rather than if, really, because he does have the car to get that win personally. But yeah, that lap 1 move that he did on Perez, I think just made me smile. I think that was my favourite moment.
Yeah, and hopefully the Aston Martin hype train can make its long journey down to Australia and Melbourne.
Yes.
That will be very fun indeed.
So standing by my guns, it's a stupid hill to die on, but I'm too far in now to not die on this Aston Martin hype train is not true. In my defence, now Josh is misquoting me on this. I said that the championship-wise, it's not the hype train, and it's sort of been morphed over the last 2 weeks. So I said they're not even going to fight for podiums. I never said. Well, I might have said that at some point in testing, but I never stood by that. I never stood by that. Anyway. thank you for you two for joining us. We're going to quickly talk about next weekend's action. We won't review it, but we'll tell you what's going on 24th, 25th and 26th of March. What a mouthful to say. That is last weekend of March, and it's the MotoGP season opener in Portugal, as well as Formula E in Sao Paulo. So make sure you keep an eye on this channel for all of that. I've been Tom Dillion. He's been Josh Turner. She's been Jessica Ball. We'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night.